Okay, let's tell a story. When putting together a compelling narrative, just what are the essential parts? First, stories are always about personalities. In fiction, they're called characters. Even sometimes when the characters are not human, such as animated characters or fantasy characters, they still display personality traits that are human-like, traits such as speech, humor, compassion, love. Among all the characters in the story, one is the protagonist, the central character around whom this story revolves. Usually the reader identifies somehow with this character more than any other, and whatever happens affects this character the most. To help the story develop, this protagonist struggles against someone or something. This struggle is called conflict. Sometimes the protagonist is in conflict with the environment or the physical or social surroundings. We call that a person versus environment conflict. Additionally, characters might struggle with themselves, experiencing an inner conflict about which course of action to take. That's a person versus himself or herself conflict. Most frequently, however, characters are in conflict with other characters, a person versus person conflict. When this is the case, the character opposing the protagonist is called the antagonist. Some readers oversimplify and call the protagonist and antagonist hero and villain, but just remember that all protagonists don't necessarily act like heroes, and all antagonists aren't villains. They're simply in conflict with each other. Now that we have a protagonist and antagonist in conflict with each other, all of this must happen somewhere and at some time. The specific time and location of the story is the setting. When and where a story takes place can have a tremendous effect on the characters and the actions they might choose. Consider an action like this. One person punches another in the face. Pow! Now, if the setting is a boxing match, the punch would be perfectly permissible and expected. But if done in a classroom, then somebody might end up going to jail. That's the importance, of course, of the setting. Next, the story arranges the actions that the characters take to accomplish what they want. These actions collectively are called the plot, or what happens in the story. The plot may contain mystery, which are unanswered questions, or suspense, that feeling of anticipation and what's going to happen next. Or like many movies, the plot might contain danger and physical risks. Now follow the main conflict to its most intense point, and that's called the climax of the story. It's when the struggle between the protagonist and the antagonist stops and is settled one way or the other. Finally, the aftermath of the climax is called the resolution or denouement. If you find you don't understand the story or are confused in some way, you probably haven't identified these basic components, and you might want to go back and reread the story with these terms in mind.